How did you go about creating that kind of world with Ang Lee?
Mm-hmm. Well, the kind of a noir movie, sure. And one of our first discussions was how to be true to the genre without necessarily making it look like noir movies, 40s and all that, and how to let's say update that visually, that genre. So we explored a lot of ideas, but their world is concealed, and so I guess that was one of the main themes. The House of the Yees they usually have their curtains closed, and so you couldn't really have like really hard light sources as noir would dictate, or certainly no Venetian blinds and that sort of thing. So I looked for ways, and that's one of the scenes I think we missed The Office after that, which was that scene, for example. There's really no light sources at night. No lights are on, and so how do you represent that? That was one of the big challenges. So basically, I looked for ways of manipulating soft light in this movie, and for that scene that we didn't see right now, it starts out when Mr. Yi is burning some papers, and that was a little bit of the light source, and when the scene begins, and then those that turns into embers, and that's all. So I wanted those embers to do a tiny bit imperceptible of the lighting. I'll explain in a second, but the rest of it is just ambient, no light, let's say. So this was most of it was shot on sound stages in Hong Kong. So I had the set with the big overhead soft boxes that were controlled with it's called, it's sort of a honeycomb kind of devices that keep the soft light directional in a way. So it was all about bending and manipulating soft light, which usually is really hard to control because it goes everywhere. That's the nature of it. It just expands, right? So to keep it soft and yet still have the mood and contrast and the concealment, and so it was a combination of shallow depth of field. In that scene, for example, I shot it all at 1.3. It wasn't anamorphic lens; it was regular spherical lenses, and that was, and on top of it, it was underexposed by a stop. So on the set for the actors, it literally was dark, and so in a way, the ambient matched what it was supposed to be, but there was kind of light everywhere, but very soft and dim. And I used a thing for the eye light of Mr. Yi that we called I think we called it the killer pizza light, because it was, Ang asked me at one point, he wanted to have something in his eyes that would happen in certain specific moments. So what I did is we had this piece of white board with Christmas lights on them, and red, yellow, and white Christmas lights. And so we'd use it in moments like that, which was like the embers, and you can barely see in his eyes a little bit of a twinkly little thing that's that, and it's supposed to be the embers. But I used it in other scenes also, in a car and things like that, and so again, it was just playing with Ang Lee. That's the thing. It's all about subtlety, about those tiny little imperceptible things. Whereas with directors like Alejandro or Oliver Stone, it's about the the big things. That's what So anyway, that's the way we approached it.
I wanted to ask one more question. The sex scenes, generally speaking, in filmmaking are really hard to do, and this film is beautiful, and you've approached pretty much every time they're having sex and those sensual scenes in a kind of different way. Like, how did you make it different and so elegant, and was there experimentation visually for you, or you can talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, this one that we saw right now particularly, the idea there was, again, the curtains are closed, so the light, again, had to be sort of soft and enveloping, so that was a first consideration, but I wanted to give it an edge, and it's, again, a subtle thing, but I used the gap in the curtains to have that slash of sun, and for me that was like a knife. You know, the undertone of the scene is dangerous. You know, they're obviously, you know, it's illicit, but also she wants to kill him, and there's all these things happening underneath. That slash of light for me gave it that sense of something that's cutting them. Another scene towards the end, another sex scene. Again, the approach was trying to make it as believable as possible, the lighting sources, and I try to come up with ideas of using the sources, and yet find ways that will enhance the drama. And in that other sex scene, Ang showed me some references of colors that were kind of black and I think some green, purple. So anyway, and that was the bed had those colors. So what I ended up doing was using a table lamp with a green shade on it, and the table itself had a very red wood on it, and that was. I asked the production designer to do that so that the scene, which we didn't see right now, but it's lit with a combination of greenish light and red light. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit bizarre, but when you see the table, those are the colors, mm-hmm. and that's a light source. So it kind of makes sense. Or there's another thing in a theater where there's a movie being projected, and they have a little talk by the door, and mm-hmm. it's a secret talk. And I didn't want it just to be the light from the screen and just that bland, because it's also, again, danger and passion. So I used, you don't see it in the frame, but I used as if there were an exit sign on top of them. So they're lit with a combination of red light and the cyan light of the screen. So those are the kind of things we were going for in the movie.
Well, I wish we had more time, because I could listen to you talk about your movies for a long time. So thank you so much for coming on behalf of Kodak and the LA Film Festival. Thank you, Rodrigo, for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rodrigo.